The silence of space was a lie, always buzzing with hidden currents and whispered secrets. Aboard the SS Reliant, the hum of old engines filled the background, a comforting if monotonous reminder of human presence in the void. Today, however, that monotony was shattered by a sharp alarm, slicing through the calm like a knife through cloth. Captain Elaine Harris, who had been overseeing routine maintenance of the ship's outdated systems, jerked her head up as the alert lights painted her weathered face in strokes of red. "Report," she snapped, her voice carrying the weight of both command and rising dread. "Captain, we've stumbled upon an unidentified outpost," reported Lieutenant Kyle Renner, his youthful face lit by the glow of his console. "It's not ours, and it's definitely not civilian." Elaine's heart pounded as she stepped up to the navigation deck, peering out at the starfield displayed on the main screen. A blip, insignificant yet ominous, marked a location that should have been empty space on their charts. "Looks military. Craxian, maybe," Elaine mused aloud, her mind racing. The Craxians were known for their military might, and not their subtlety. Why here? Why hide in such a remote sector? "Orders, Captain." Kyle's question snapped her back to the present. "We investigate," she decided, squaring her shoulders. This could be a simple misstep into restricted space, or it could be the precursor to something more sinister. Either way, the Reliant, old and laughably underpowered as she was, had found itself the closest unit capable of a first-hand investigation. The ship, groaning slightly as if protesting the sudden change in routine, adjusted its course under Kyle's expert guidance. As they approached the covered outpost, hidden among the debris of an asteroid belt, the scale of their discovery began to dawn on the crew. It wasn't just a station. It was a fully armed military base, bristling with cannons that were slowly turning to face them. "Shields up, prepare evasive maneuvers," Elaine commanded, her voice steady despite the flicker of fear in her eyes. They were outgunned and outmatched, but retreat wasn't an option. Not until they knew what was at stake. As the SS Reliant danced between the asteroids, narrowly dodging an initial salvo, Elaine's thoughts were clear. This was no accident. This outpost was a silent harbinger of doom for unsuspecting human territories, possibly the vanguard of a Craxian invasion. The crew of the SS Reliant found themselves the unlikely guardians at the gate, the first and only line of defense in a game they had barely understood they were playing. And as the alien weapons charged for another strike, Elaine felt the weight of her ship's outdated hull and the bravery of her crew, ready to face the unknown. As the SS Reliant maneuvered through the debris-strewn field that concealed the Craxian outpost, the tension aboard the ship was palpable. Every crew member was acutely aware of the David versus Goliath scenario unfolding, with their outdated vessel squaring off against a potentially superior enemy force hidden in the shadows of space. Inside the cramped but functional bridge, Captain Elaine Harris surveyed the sensor data flickering across the main display. The outpost, now fully revealed, was more formidable than any intelligence had suggested. Its angular, metallic surfaces were adorned with the menacing silhouettes of heavy artillery, a silent testament to its lethal purpose. "Lieutenant Renner, can we tap into their communication array?" Elaine asked, her mind racing with possibilities. She knew that understanding their enemy was their best chance at survival. Kyle Renner nodded, his fingers flying over his console with practiced ease. "I think so, Captain. Their encryption is tough, but it looks like they haven't noticed our cyber probe yet. I'm on it." Minutes felt like hours as Kyle worked his magic. The rest of the crew busied themselves with their stations, casting nervous glances towards the screens showing the looming outpost. Finally, Kyle let out a low whistle. "Got something, Captain. You're going to want to see this." He patched the intercepted communication through the audio system of the bridge. The crackle of static gave way to a deep, authoritative voice, unmistakably Craxian. "Ensure readiness for the next phase. Deployment must proceed on schedule. No delays." Elaine's eyes narrowed. "They're planning something big. Kyle, keep digging. Find out what this next phase is about." As Kyle resumed his efforts, Elaine pondered their next move. The outpost was clearly a staging ground for a larger offensive. If they could uncover the specifics, perhaps they could find a way to thwart it, or at least warn Earth. The breakthrough came sooner than expected. Kyle managed to bypass further security layers, accessing a series of encrypted files that detailed the Craxian plans. "Captain, it looks like they're prepping a series of attacks, not just against human territories, but against other alien sectors too. It's a multi-front expansion." Armed with this information, Elaine faced a critical decision. Alerting Earth was a priority, but the Reliant was also in a unique position to potentially disrupt the Craxian operations. After a moment of tense deliberation, she made her call. "We're going to sabotage this outpost," she declared firmly. "If we can set back their plans, even just a little, it might give the fleet enough time to prepare." "Kyle, I need options." Working quickly under Elaine's directive, Kyle proposed a daring plan. "Their power grid is vulnerable. If we can send a pulse through their system, it should fry most of their controls temporarily. Prepare the pulse. Everyone else, get ready for a bumpy ride," Elaine instructed, her voice a mix of determination and calm. The crew set to work, their actions swift and precise. The Reliant positioned itself just out of the outpost's primary sensor range. Using a small, maneuverable shuttle loaded with the necessary tech, Kyle and a small team stealthily approached the Craxian outpost. The operation was risky, the tension aboard the shuttle thick as they neared the target. With precise timing and a bit of luck, they released the pulse. A bright flash illuminated the space, followed by the satisfying sight of the outpost's lights flickering and dying out. Cheers broke out among the shuttle team, and were echoed by the crew aboard the Reliant. They had done it. The outpost was crippled, its threat momentarily neutralized. As they made their retreat, Elaine allowed herself a brief smile. But her mind was already on the next challenge. They had bought some time, but the war was far from over. Back on the SS Reliant, the mood had shifted from one of desperate defense to cautious optimism. The crew, energized by their successful sabotage of the Craxian outpost, gathered in the main briefing room, where Captain Elaine Harris outlined the next phase of their unexpected mission. "The Craxians are down but not out," Elaine began, her voice echoing slightly in the cramped utilitarian space. "We've dealt them a significant blow, but this is just the beginning. They will retaliate, and we need to be ready." Lieutenant Kyle Renner, still exhilarated from the mission's success, stepped forward to present the data they had gathered. "Based on the intel we pulled from their network, we know the Craxians are planning a series of coordinated strikes intended to extend their empire across several vulnerable sectors," he explained, pointing to a series of maps and diagrams displayed on the screen behind him. "Their next target is likely the Alcyone system, a critical junction for trade and communication." Elaine studied the maps, her mind racing through scenarios. If they take Alcyone, they'll have a straight shot to more central human territories. We can't let that happen. She turned to face her crew, a diverse group who had all joined the Reliant for various reasons, none expecting to be at the vanguard of an interstellar conflict. "We need a plan that not only protects Alcyone but also puts us in a position to push back the Craxian advance permanently." A strategy began to form, combining their newfound knowledge of Craxian tactics with the Reliant's unique capabilities. "Kyle, can we mimic the pulse we used on the outpost to disrupt their ship systems long enough to give us an advantage?" Elaine asked. Kyle nodded, his fingers tapping rapidly on his tablet. "It's risky, but possible. We'd need to get close, and we'd only have a small window of opportunity to act before they recover. Then we'll take that risk," Elaine decided with a firm nod. "Prepare the pulse. I want everyone ready to move out within the hour. We're not just defending this time. We're taking the fight to them." The plan was daring. The Reliant would intercept the Craxian fleet en route to Alcyone, using the element of surprise and the chaos caused by the pulse to disable the lid ships. This would disrupt the formation and create an opening for a counterattack. The crew set to work with a will, checking and double-checking their systems, loading every available weapon, and reinforcing the ship's defenses. Tension and determination charged the air as the Reliant made its stealthy way toward the expected point of intercept. As they approached the designated coordinates, the vastness of space around them seemed to pulse with unseen currents of fate. Elaine felt the weight of command more acutely than ever, knowing that the lives of her crew and potentially thousands of others depended on the success of their mission. "Contact," whispered the sensor operator. "Craxian fleet in range. They haven't detected us yet." "Deploy the pulse," Elaine ordered, her voice steady despite the thundering of her heart. A moment later, the space around the Craxian fleet shimmered with the release of the pulse. Several of the alien ships faltered, their lights flickering as their systems went dark. "Now," Elaine shouted. "All units, engage." The Reliant surged forward, leading its smaller companion vessels into the fray. Laser cannons fired in brilliant arcs, cutting through the darkness of space as they struck the disabled Craxian ships. The battle was fierce and fraught with peril, but the Reliant's surprise attack had given them the upper hand. Slowly, the tide began to turn. As the last of the Craxian ships retreated, limping away into the deeper void, Elaine allowed herself a brief sigh of relief. They had won the battle, but the war was far from over. Yet with each victory, the Reliant was proving itself to be far more than the galaxy's weakest ship. It was becoming a beacon of hope and a symbol of humanity's indomitable spirit. As the dust of battle settled in the void of space near the Alcyone system, the SS Reliant hovered amidst the debris of Craxian ships, a testament to its unexpected prowess and the courage of its crew. Captain Elaine Harris stood at the helm, her gaze fixed on the star-studded blackness ahead, where the enemy had fled in disarray. Her crew, seasoned now by the heat of battle, manned their stations with a newfound confidence, but Elaine knew the hardest part of their mission was yet to come. "Status report," Elaine called out, her voice cutting through the hum of the ship's systems. "Shields at 40%. Hull integrity stable. We took some hits, but we'll hold together," reported Lieutenant Kyle Renner from Engineering, his voice steady over the comms. "Good. Prepare for the next phase." This was just the opening move, Elaine responded, her mind already turning to their next strategic step. The Reliant's success at Alcyone had bought them time, but the Craxians would regroup quickly. They needed to strike decisively while the enemy was still reeling. In the strategy room, Elaine convened with her senior officers to map out their next move. The large holographic display at the center of the room flickered to life, showing the broader galactic map and the known positions of Craxian forces. "We've got their attention now," Elaine began, pointing to the sectors where Craxian military activity was most concentrated. "They underestimated us, and they won't make that mistake again. We need to exploit their current disarray and gather more intelligence." Kyle piped up. "There's a Craxian communications hub in the Nebulon sector. It's heavily guarded, but if we can tap into their network, we could gain invaluable insights into their plans." Elaine considered this. The Nebulon sector was deep in Craxian-controlled space, making it a perilous mission. However, the potential rewards were too great to ignore. "Prepare a stealth team. We'll need to be quick and silent. This won't be a frontal assault, but a surgical strike." As the Reliance set a course for the Nebulon sector, tension mounted with each passing light year. The ship's cloaking technology, adapted from the captured Craxian tech, kept them hidden from enemy sensors, but the margin for error was razor-thin. Arriving at the outskirts of the Nebulon sector, the Reliant released a smaller shuttle, virtually undetectable, carrying Kyle and a select team of specialists tasked with infiltrating the Craxian hub. Elaine remained aboard the Reliant, overseeing the operation from a distance, her every nerve strained in anticipation. The stealth team's approach was meticulous, navigating through asteroid debris and evading patrols. Upon reaching the communications hub, a massive structure floating ominously against a backdrop of swirling cosmic gases. They executed their plan with precision. Kyle and his team used a combination of hacking tools and sheer ingenuity to breach the hub's outer defenses. Once inside, they quickly located the central data core, a vast array of pulsating energy that housed the Craxian Empire's most guarded secrets. The data they extracted was more disturbing than they had anticipated. It detailed not only military deployments and supply routes, but also plans for a superweapon capable of devastating entire star systems. The implications were clear. If this weapon were completed, it would shift the balance of power irreversibly in favor of the Craxians. With the crucial data secured, Kyle's team exfiltrated under heavy pursuit, barely making it back to the shuttle. As they raced back to the Reliant, enemy forces closed in, a tense chase ensuing through the labyrinth of space debris. Back on the Reliant, Elaine coordinated a cover barrage, firing at strategic points to distract the Craxian forces and clear a path for the shuttle. With expert navigation and a bit of luck, the shuttle docked safely, the team weary but triumphant. As Elaine reviewed the stolen data, her resolve hardened. We've got what we need to prevent this catastrophe. It's time to take this information to the Galactic Council. They need to see what we're up against. With the entire galaxy at stake, the Reliant charted a course for the Galactic Council, racing against time to thwart a threat of unimaginable scale. The journey ahead was fraught with danger, but armed with crucial intelligence and an unyielding spirit, Elaine and her crew were ready to face whatever challenges awaited. The SS Reliant hurtled through the starlit cosmos, its engines glowing faintly against the backdrop of the infinite universe. Inside the ship, the atmosphere was tense yet charged with a focused energy. Captain Elaine Harris stood in the command center, reviewing the newly obtained data with her crew, the implications of their discovery weighing heavily on everyone's minds. According to this, the Craxians are close to completing a weapon that could obliterate entire systems, Elaine said, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. This isn't just about territorial expansion anymore. It's about survival. Lieutenant Kyle Renner, who had been instrumental in retrieving the data, looked over the schematics displayed on the screen. The superweapon is based on a form of dark energy manipulation, something beyond anything we've encountered. If they succeed in activating it, the results would be catastrophic. The crew absorbed the information in solemn silence, each member processing the threat in their own way. Elaine's resolve hardened. This was a fight not just for their own lives, but for the lives of countless beings across the galaxy. We need to present this to the Galactic Council, Elaine decided. They need to be warned, and we need to formulate a plan to stop the Craxians before it's too late. As the Reliant made its way to the Galactic Council's headquarters, a massive space station orbiting a peaceful blue planet, preparations were made to ensure the information would be delivered effectively. Diplomatic channels were opened, and Elaine personally drafted a speech that outlined their findings and the potential dangers. Upon arrival, the Reliant was greeted with a mixture of curiosity and concern. The ship, now known across various systems for its unexpected victories, was quickly ushered through security protocols. Captain Harris and her selected officers, including Kyle, were escorted to the council chambers, a vast, circular room where representatives of different galactic powers convened. The session was called to order, and Elaine took the central podium, facing the assembled delegates. Her heart pounded with the significance of the moment, but her voice was clear and authoritative as she began. Esteemed members of the Galactic Council, we come before you not just as representatives of Earth, but as defenders of the galaxy. Elaine began, her gaze sweeping across the room. We have uncovered a threat of unprecedented scale, an advanced superweapon being developed by the Craxian Empire, capable of destroying entire star systems. A murmur of shock and disbelief rippled through the chamber. Screens around the room flickered to life, displaying the technical data and schematics of the weapon. Elaine continued, outlining the potential strategic targets and the disastrous consequences if the weapon were used. As the presentation concluded, A heated debate erupted among the council members. Some were skeptical of the data, others fearful, and a few called for immediate action. Elaine and Kyle fielded questions, provided further explanations, and argued for a united response. Gradually, the tide of opinion began to shift towards recognizing the gravity of the threat. After hours of discussion, the council agreed to form a coalition force to address the Craxian threat. Elaine was appointed to lead the task force, given her experience and the Reliant's instrumental role in uncovering the plot. As the meeting adjourned, Elaine felt a mixture of relief and daunting responsibility. The galaxy was on the brink, and the path ahead was fraught with peril. But with the council's backing, there was hope. Returning to the Reliant, Elaine gathered her crew, sharing the news of their new mission. "This is it," she said, looking out at the faces of her loyal team. "The real fight starts now. We stopped them once. We can do it again." With the galaxy's fate hanging in the balance, the SS Reliant prepared to lead a desperate campaign against the Craxian Empire, ready to thwart their dark ambitions and protect the fragile peace of the cosmos. The SS Reliant, now the flagship of a hastily assembled but determined interstellar coalition, cruised through the shadowy depths of space towards the Craxian border. Aboard the ship, Captain Elaine Harris meticulously planned their most perilous mission yet, a covert operation to infiltrate the Craxian Empire and sabotage the superweapon before its completion. The bridge was tense with anticipation as Elaine briefed her diverse team, which now included skilled operatives from several ally planets. Each member was chosen for their unique expertise, crucial for the mission's success. Lieutenant Kyle Renner stood by her side, overseeing the integration of alien technology into their strategy, enhancing their stealth and offensive capabilities. "Our objective is clear," Elaine began, her voice resolute amid the hum of the ship's engines. "We disable the weapon and get out without sparking a full-scale war. This is a surgical strike. Precision is key." The plan involved entering Craxian space using a captured ship from their previous encounters, modified to mask its energy signature. Kyle had worked miracles to make the ship appear Craxian, even to the most sensitive scanners. The tension in the room was palpable as the team absorbed the gravity of their task. As they neared the target, a desolate system known only by its coordinates, the Reliant released the disguised ship, now carrying Elaine, Kyle, and their elite team. Space around them was eerily quiet, the stars a silent audience to their clandestine journey. Navigating through Craxian defenses required precision and a bit of luck. Kyle's modifications held, fooling the Craxian sensors as they approached the construction site of the superweapon, located on a barren moon orbiting a gas giant. The site was a fortress of activity, swarming with ships and guarded by heavy defenses. Using forged credentials, they landed on the moon, their ship docking in the shadow of the colossal weapon structure. It loomed like a giant among the stars, its framework bristling with energy nodes that pulsed with dark power. "Remember, stick to the plan. We find the main reactor, plant the charges, and get out before anyone realizes what's happening," Elaine whispered, leading her team out of the ship and into the heart of the enemy's lair. Disguised in Craxian uniforms, they moved stealthily through the facility. The interior was a labyrinth of cold metal and harsh lights, the air filled with the hum of machinery and distant commands. Kyle led them to the reactor's control room using schematics they'd stolen. Inside, they encountered unexpected resistance. A team of Craxian engineers. A tense standoff ensued, resolved quickly and quietly to avoid raising an alarm. With the engineers subdued, Kyle worked to override the reactor systems. His fingers flew over the alien controls, reprogramming the energy flow to create a feedback loop that would implode the reactor once they were safely clear. Time was slipping away, and just as they began their retreat, alarms blared through the facility. "We've been made. Move," Elaine shouted, urgency propelling her forward as they dashed back to their ship. Chaos erupted as Craxian forces scrambled, but the team's preparation paid off. They reached their ship and blasted off, the moon shrinking behind them as they raced against time. Behind them, the superweapon's silhouette was engulfed in a brilliant, consuming fire. Back on the Reliant, the crew erupted into cheers as they watched the destruction from a safe distance. The mission was a success, but Elaine knew the Craxians would retaliate. They had struck a significant blow, but the war was far from over. As the Reliant set its course back to the Coalition fleet, Elaine felt a mix of triumph and foreboding. They had achieved the impossible, yet this victory was merely the opening move in a much larger game of galactic chess. After the successful sabotage of the Craxian superweapon, the SS Reliant and its crew made a swift retreat back to the safety of the Coalition's forward operating base. The galaxy, once on the brink of witnessing a cataclysmic war, now teetered on the precipice of a delicate peace. In the command center of the Coalition's flagship, an emergency assembly of the Interstellar Council was in session, with Captain Elaine Harris at its heart. The vast chamber, filled with representatives from numerous star systems, buzzed with a mix of relief and lingering tension. The large holoscreens displayed the last moments of the Craxian superweapon, its implosion a silent yet bright testament to the mission's success. Elaine stood before the council, her uniform still bearing the faint smudges of battle, her expression somber yet resolute. "Ladies and gentlemen of the council," Elaine began, her voice echoing through the chamber. "Today, we have averted a disaster that could have ended billions of lives. But let this victory not blind us to the lessons we must learn and the challenges that still lie ahead." The chamber quieted, every delegate hanging on her words. The Craxian Empire, driven by fear and ambition, sought to dominate us all through unthinkable destruction. We must ensure that no power, Craxian or otherwise, ever threatens the galaxy in such a manner again. Her proposal was bold, a unified galactic defense pact, ensuring mutual protection and sharing of technology among all star systems to prevent future crises. The debates that followed were intense. Some members were wary of sharing their defensive capabilities, while others argued about the balance of power such a pact might disrupt. Yet, Elaine's persuasive words, backed by the undeniable success of their recent operation, slowly tipped the scales. As the council reached a consensus, agreeing to Elaine's proposal, a message arrived from Craxian space. It was from Admiral Zorvac, the military leader of the Craxians, requesting a ceasefire and peace talks. The room tensed, the proposal presenting a new array of diplomatic challenges and opportunities. Elaine advocated for cautious engagement. "We must pursue peace but prepare for any deception," she advised, suggesting a series of diplomatic engagements to test the Craxians' sincerity. The days that followed were a whirlwind of diplomatic maneuvers. Under Elaine's leadership, a delegation was formed, including some of the brightest diplomats and military strategists from the Coalition, herself included. Their destination: a neutral space station on the border of Craxian territory, where the first peace talks were to be held. Upon arrival, the tension was palpable. The Craxian delegation, led by Admiral Zorvac himself, was imposing, tall, armored, and with a presence that filled the room. Initial greetings were formal and fraught with an undercurrent of mutual distrust. However, as talks progressed, barriers slowly began to lower. Zorvac, much to the surprise of many, expressed a sincere desire to end hostilities. He spoke of internal pressures within the Craxian Empire, of factions like the one behind the superweapon, which had pushed for aggressive expansion against his better judgment. The negotiations were long and arduous, with both sides making significant concessions. Elaine played a crucial role, her experiences and recent victories lending her a commanding authority. After several rounds of talks, a peace treaty was drafted, marking a historic end to hostilities and the beginning of a new era of cooperation. As the treaty was signed, Elaine felt a mix of exhaustion and elation. They had achieved what many thought impossible, turning an imminent threat into a chance for unity. Returning to the Reliant, Elaine looked out into the star-filled void, a sense of peace settling over her. They had navigated the treacherous waters of war and diplomacy to emerge stronger, not just as a ship or a crew, but as a vital part of a galaxy that was learning to look beyond conflict. As the first rays of the twin suns of Corellis illuminated the viewing deck of the SS Reliant, Captain Elaine Harris stood quietly, reflecting on the monumental changes the past few weeks had brought. The peace treaty with the Craxian Empire was now in effect, and the galaxy seemed to breathe a collective sigh of relief. The Reliant, once deemed the weakest link in Earth's fleet, had been pivotal in reshaping galactic relations. Elaine watched as the stars shimmered against the vast canvas of space, each one a silent witness to the history they had made. The ship was en route to Earth, where a hero's welcome awaited them. But for Elaine, this moment of quiet introspection was more rewarding than any parade could ever be. "Captain, all systems are stable, and we're on course for Earth. We should arrive in 6 hours," reported Lieutenant Kyle Renner, approaching Elaine with a slight smile. His brilliance as an engineer had been crucial in their success, and his growth under her command was a source of quiet pride for her. "Thank you, Kyle. Make sure the crew is ready for all the attention they're about to receive back home," Elaine responded, returning his smile. "They deserve every bit of it." As the Reliant sailed through the peaceful cosmos, back at the Galactic Council's headquarters, the ratification of the new Defense Pact was underway. This pact, inspired by Elaine's initiative, was designed to ensure that no single power would threaten the peace and stability of the galaxy again. It called for transparency, shared responsibility, and cooperative defense strategies among all signatory planets. Meanwhile, news of the treaty and the story of the Reliant had spread across human territories, igniting a sense of unity and pride that had not been felt in generations. Schools taught children about the diplomacy and valor demonstrated by Elaine and her crew. Holovids and broadcasts analyzed their tactics and bravery. As the Reliant approached Earth, the crew prepared for their return, adjusting their dress uniforms and sharing stories of their families and loved ones. Elaine took a moment to speak to each member, thanking them for their service and bravery. The camaraderie and trust built during their harrowing journey were palpable, a testament to their shared experiences. Upon entering Earth's orbit, the sight that greeted them was overwhelming. A flotilla of ships from various nations was assembled to escort them home, a rare display of global solidarity. As they descended, crowds gathered in millions, cheering and waving banners. The Reliant passed over cities where people poured into the streets to catch a glimpse of the ship that had saved them from potential annihilation. The official ceremony was held at the United Nations Space Command Center, where global leaders and diplomats awaited. Elaine delivered a speech, not just recounting their mission, but also emphasizing the need for continued vigilance and cooperation. Her words resonated deeply, not just on Earth but across the galaxy, broadcast live to countless worlds. "We stood on the brink of destruction, yet through unity and courage, we found a path to peace," Elaine declared, her voice firm and inspiring. "Let this be a lesson to us all. Alone we are vulnerable, but together there is no limit to what we can achieve." As the ceremony concluded, Elaine felt a profound sense of accomplishment, but also a recognition of the responsibilities that lay ahead. The galaxy was watching, and a Reliant's journey had only just begun. With the ship's crew by her side, and a new era of interstellar cooperation ahead, Captain Harris was ready to navigate whatever challenges the future might hold.